It's 4:20 somewhere right now. That somewhere is right here. So hello and welcome to the Cannabis Show. I'm producer Vince, and here's your host, Ricardo Baca.
Vince, what is up, dude? Thank you. And to everybody joining us today, welcome to the Cannabist Show, where we talk about all things weed.
That's all things.
And that's the serious marijuana news and the not always serious reviews and videos and features and everything else. In fact, if you pop onto the site right now, that is thecannabist.co, you will see stories about how scientists now believe that adolescent pot use is not linked with lower IQs.
I hate to say I told you so.
About New York's medical marijuana program picking up steam.
About time.
And about the future of Arizona's recreational cannabis ballot initiative.
Yeah, but who can predict Arizona law?
Of course, producer Vince, as you hear, is right here in the studio with me today. And dude, how have you been?
I have been great, Ricardo. You know, it's all green to me. Get it? Anybody? I get it. No, but how have you been, Ricardo? I heard you had kind of a sick weekend.
You know, yeah. Oh my God, I was totally ill. It was not fun. It's funny because as a lot of our readers know and our viewers, listeners, I'm still somewhat of a newbie to cannabis, and so I can still have those first-time experiences where maybe it's intentionally getting high before going to a movie or going for a hike or whatever it may be. And this weekend was my first time intentionally getting high to try and forget about the pain of being sick. And it didn't help the sickness, but it certainly helped me forget about being so sick and miserable that it was a great way to spend the weekend.
I bet, dude. I recently learned that one too, and the two strains I used, ambulance and green crack, mixed together, really took my mind off of how horrible I felt the whole time I was sick.
Well, green crack tends to have that effect on people, Vince. Hey, are you ready for the week in weed?
You know it, brother. I'm always ready for the week in weed.
All right, dude. We're going to start this week in weed at the U.S.-Mexico border, where it looks as if Mexican marijuana production is dramatically declining in this new age of legal American cannabis. So in looking at some key statistics and reporting from the ground in the Mexican state of Sinaloa, the Los Angeles Times reported that some Mexican marijuana growers are giving up on the pot crop because their middleman buyers almost never come around anymore, and their per kilo prices have dropped from 100 to 30 US dollars.
That is a massive price drop. It's even putting Washington's price drops to shame. But it's also interesting to hear those numbers. Cannabis farmers in Mexico were only making $100 per kilogram, or 2.2 pounds for the Americans in the audience, of weed. And now they only get $30 for that same amount. That's pretty nuts. Is the system working?
In addition to the farmers' anecdotes, here are three telling statistics from the Times article. Statistic number one, the Mexican government is on pace to eradicate about 12,000 acres of marijuana this year, and that's down from more than 44,000 acres in 2010, and that is according to the Mexican Attorney General's office.
All right, all right. And stat number two, U.S. Customs and Border Protection seized about 1,085 tons of marijuana at the border in 2014. In the previous 4 years, that figure hovered around 1,500 tons.
That's cutting a third off. So stat number three, the number of U.S. arrests by federal agents involving foreign-grown cannabis dropped from about 4,500 in 2010 to about 2,300 in 2014, and that is according to the DEA.
So that's pretty much in half. These are important numbers, especially since the marijuana lobby has, in part, sold legalization on the idea that a regulated cannabis market could eventually and would eventually eradicate the whole black market.
Exactly, Vince, and that's why this is substantial news for legalization activists. It's proof that legalization, at least on this front, is working. So, elsewhere in the week in weed, we dug deep into the lawsuits filed against Colorado officials and businesses and found that a majority of them were organized and financed by out-of-state anti-drug organizations.
Ricardo, dude, nice work on this report. It was wild to read about the people who are making these lawsuits happen against Colorado. A Washington, D.C. anti-marijuana group, an anti-drug organization out of my favorite place, Florida, a super conservative law firm out of D.C., and what about all those secret coalitions of unnamed donors?
I know, right? Thank you for the kind words. And, you know, it's important to know because for those who oppose Colorado's marijuana laws, the out-of-state money and influence offers a chance to fight back against what they characterize as a well-heeled marijuana lobby that changed public opinion with misleading messages. But supporters of Colorado's legal pot laws, and they say that the money gives outsized influence to the secretive coalitions of drug rehab professionals, for-profit prison owners, and others with a financial stake in keeping pot illegal. Either way, the lawsuits represent the opposition's last-ditch effort to put the brakes on recreational marijuana legalization before at least 5 or 6 other states vote on the issue in November.
Well, bad news for them, because you know what happens when you try to apply the brakes too hard in November? You usually hit a little bit of ice and slip out of control, right, dude?
True, Vince. I guess that's true. But now, some of you might have read my recent interview with our first guest. Vince is going to pull up the profile's headline, which reads, "This woman throws the swankiest, most luxe cannabis parties in America." And that about says it all. So let's all welcome Mason Jar Event Group founder Kendall Norris to the Cannabist Show. Hey.
Hi.
Good to see you.
What time?
All right. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, always.
Welcome to the talk show. I'm thrilled to have you on here.
Me too. I'm thrilled to be here.
Kendall,
Yes.
serious stuff first. Indica or sativa?
Sativa.
Oh yeah, okay. Why?
Yep. Because I love the energetic properties to it. I'm kind of a social bird anyway, so I find that it, you know, just kind of keeps me on my vibe.
Nice, I like
Yeah.
it. I'm wondering, me and the producers are starting to wonder what the percentage is going to be of guests saying sativa versus indica, because I think, especially here in Colorado, I think we're going to see a lot of sativa.
Definitely.
Moving on, Kendall, when we last chatted, you were telling me about that you've always thrown these extravagant dinner parties with great food, drink, weed, but it wasn't until last year that you brought them outside of your own kitchen. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so tell me about what they used to look like and how that transition to the public space happened.
Sure. Well, these are just a few of my favorite things. So when I left the corporate world, I had to figure out sort of what I wanted to do when I grow up. And, you know, I mean, just like everyone else, I've heard the influx of, you know, follow your passion, do what you love, and the money will come. So I just sort of subscribed to that and said, okay, well, I love food, I love wine, I love yoga, and I love weed. So how do I put this all together and create an experience for people that, you know, will leave this lasting impression, all while trying to bring up the face of cannabis and just create this sort of new face. I mean, now I feel like, and maybe always, you know, cannabis has always looked like this, has always looked like you. Not just because people sort of got stuck on that stereotypical stoner kid,
Sure.
does not mean that it, you know, that it is the industry or it is the community that's really using these products.
To you, cannabis has always looked like an extravagant dinner with your closest friends in your kitchen, and so now you have 50 of your closest friends at a much larger table. We've talked about your fall harvest dinner on this show at least 5 times. I think we even talked about it like 2 weeks ago with Lauren Gibbs. But you know, you have a way, as that headline said, of throwing these parties that are just so beautifully cohesive that, you know, they're just very fun. I'm looking forward to the next one. But first, you know, because these don't come without their challenges, and I want you to tell me what the single biggest challenge is in pulling off these weed dinners or these cannabis pairing yoga brunches. What's the single biggest challenge you face?
You know, I've been doing events for so long that it's really ingrained in me, and because these are my favorite things, bringing them all together has been fairly easy. I'd say the biggest challenge for me is finding a venue. Finding venues that are willing to sort of think outside the box. You know, everything we do is very legal, but it's getting people to really wrap their heads around what it is that we're going to do. And actually, the woman who hosted our fall event, she pulled me aside as the event was happening, and she said, "Kendall, I just want to tell you that I really didn't even know what a cannabis was." And I was like, oh my God, this is either going to go really good or really bad. And she said, it's okay, it's fine. I see what's happening. This is all very classy and lovely and beautiful, and I'm so happy that it's here. But I probably wouldn't have agreed to it.
Oh, wow.
But she's since written us a number of recommendations to other venues, and you know, has become one of our big supporters.
And here you are throwing another event at that same location,
Exactly.
right? I want to ask you about that because your next event is winter. Last one was fall. Here we are with winter. It's coming up on January 28th, right here outside of Boulder, Colorado. But tell us what we should expect at this winter dinner. I know you have many ideas and you're probably executing them right now, so tell us what we can expect.
Just an evening of decadence. We are, the chef is preparing one of my favorite dishes of all time. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Oh.
I want it to be a surprise.
Okay, all right, I like it.
But it's a very simple French dish that I feel will lend itself perfectly to the pairing of the entree that we have from Headquarters Dispensary. And I'm just thrilled to be able to do it again and to pull it all together again in this beautiful location with lots of greenery and you know, just some really decadent products that we've got.
Okay, so some French food. Let's talk pairings, because I know when you and I chatted, you said that there might be some new cannabis-infused products at the table that are a part of the pairing menu. Can you talk about what some of those might be?
Yep, we're going to do, so to begin with, we'll have a pre-roll that is going to look gorgeous in its presentation in a Kush card.
And a Kush card.
Kush that? Cards is a greeting card company that allows for a little space where you can slide in a pre-roll.
Sure. Okay, so, I got one of those for Christmas, and it's a great card. Yeah.
They're an awesome company, and she actually, the two women that run the company are amazing, and they do all of our design work for us.
Oh, cool.
So we'll start with that, and then we're going to move on to the Love's Oven Parmesan rosemary cracker that will go with the soup. We'll go further into the menu, and then we'll have a little glass jar in your goodie bag that will have a nugget of a very fine strain that I'm excited to work with.
Oh, okay.
And then we will move on to the dessert, and we'll have another pairing with the dessert.
Nice. Yeah. So just to clarify, this is a weed-infused Parmesan.
Hold on, I almost totally forgot. One of the things that I'm most excited about is that we've never done a beverage. So we've never paired a beverage with that's cannabis infused with one of our courses. So we're going to do that with Canyon Cultivation and their coffee infused drops.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So is that going to become pre-mixed, or can people, is it part of the cocktail?
It's going to come in your goodie bag. All of our cannabis products come in the goodie bag, and you have to go to the dispensary before the event to pick it up in a licensed facility. I like to keep things super legal.
Right.
So everybody will be able to add their own drops.
Oh, okay.
They'll be able to add their own crackers. They'll be able to sort of choose their destiny, if you will.
Let's hear this one more time. A cannabis-infused rosemary Parmesan cracker?
Yes.
Wow, this is where we're at in Colorado right now. This is just amazing. So, thank you, Kendall. We're going to talk with you some more here shortly, but thanks so much for coming on the show. This is super fun. Now, before I introduce our next guest, I'm going to throw to our very own physician of fatties, Professor Pat, for this week's entry in the new Cannabist lexicon.
Crystals, the common layman's term for the cannabis plant's trichomes. These tiny structures contain the vast majority of the plant's cannabinoids and are what is removed to create concentrates such as hash, hash oil, and keef. For example, that bud is covered in crystals, trichomes.
Thank you for that, Professor Pat. Simply amazing. Now, on to our next guest, who is no stranger to this set. Zac Cohen is a creative professional in the cannabis industry. Think branding, design, advertising, messaging, graphics, and it is my pleasure to welcome him back to the Cannabist Show. Hey, bud. How's it going?
Happy New Year. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Happy New Year to you both.
Hi.
And you know, Kendall, you guys worked together
Yes,
on that
we have.
fall harvest dinner that we were just talking about.
Had the pleasure. She's
Zac,
amazing.
indica or sativa?
I can't choose. I smoke everything.
What? You don't prefer one?
I'll smoke sativas more often because I want the energy, I want the euphoria, I want the happiness, I want the sort of clear-headedness. But so I might smoke more sativa in terms of quantity, but indicas are just as important. I mean, you know, hybrids and then getting into the body relief. I'm an athlete, I'm a yogi, I'm a runner. I need indica on a daily basis. So, you know, I might smoke more sativa, but I can't choose. I won't. I'm sorry.
You're like that proud parent?
Just can't do it. Oh, I'll be able to choose my favorite kid, no doubt. And I'll tell them each.
Zac, it's funny, you've been on the show before, we've hung out outside of here a couple times, but I've never heard your Green Rush story. You know, I know you moved to Colorado from the East Coast, but share with us this backstory, because why are you moving in 2015 from New York to Denver?
You know, it's a great question. I very often, of course, I'm in the messaging business, so I'm usually talking about my clients and partners and projects that I'm working on. It's not often I get a chance to talk about myself, but since you asked.
That's how it happens with so many of us.
You know, I'm a born and raised New Yorker. It's my home. I grew up in Manhattan and went to school there. Then spent many years working on Wall Street. Honestly, the mixture of the lifestyle of Colorado, which to me seemed very much a 21st century vision of what I wanted for my life, in terms of wellness, health, place, and I think really importantly, the idea of space. Now out here we have a lot of space.
Comparatively, especially.
Comparatively, and not just, of course, this means like, you know, living in tiny apartments and paying way too much for them in New York or Brooklyn, but I think also as important as that is the emotional and the creative space. I think I wanted an experience in a city, in a state that I felt like I could have an impact on, that I felt like I could contribute to its culture, to its economy, that what I was doing in New York, because of its bigness, its largesse, and its scale, that the way I've developed in life and the things that I'm interested and passionate about, I just wasn't able to crack through. I wasn't able to make the impact on the communities that I cared about. So the idea of coming to Colorado, where this new wild experiment, to be a pioneer, to add my vision and my context to the emerging space, and you know, certainly a lot of it was I want to get to Colorado for myself. And a lot of it was I want to get to Colorado for my future and for my career and for this profession. I think, and I hope cannabis will, the legalization and decriminalization movement will spread, not just nationally, but globally. And to me, there's no better place for me to incubate myself as well as the business and brand that I run over the next few years, and hopefully take the incredible clients that both Kendall and I work with and the partners really to go across the world. I think there'll be an opportunity for Colorado companies to lead the way, and I want to be there with them.
And we see that happening already. It's amazing to talk with ganjapreneurs weekly who are in Nevada, in absolutely Washington, Oregon, Illinois, Massachusetts.
Absolutely.
I mean, these are people who are applying for licenses and selling medical marijuana in Massachusetts. So I have to ask you, especially because I know you recently got home from a trip to New York. Congratulations on your fish event. That looked very cool out there.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah.
But of course, New York just launched its medical program. It's creeping along. It's slowly gaining momentum, but you know, it's 2016 in Manhattan, in New York City. And did you notice any changes in the city and the presence of weed as normalization creeps east?
Not yet.
Yeah.
You know, the medical experiment has just started. I think within the first week, I read somewhere, Gothamist or an East Coast publication, that only 75 or 85 patients had signed up. So obviously the impact hasn't really been felt from that level. I think what's more interesting to me is the sort of bottom-up impact. And there was a story this summer where I believe it was William Bratton, who is the police commissioner now, if my numbers are right.
Oh, right, right.
And he apparently saw somebody, a young student, a woman, smoking a joint on Wall Street. She was either heading to class, it was in the morning, and he sort of walked up to her, said, "Young lady, it's illegal," and like literally took it from her and threw it out. And he said, I could arrest you. You know, you may think that it's casual and you may think that you're not causing harm, but it's still illegal here, and we have to respect it. And of course, that's the police commissioner or chief, you know. So like, it was sort of funny, but I think you know, the truth is, cannabis is smoked all over New York City, all over New York. There's a great grow culture upstate, and both New York City, Long Island, New Jersey, Brooklyn have really deep and extensive cannabis cultures. It's consumed all day, every day. It's not to the point where you walk into certain areas of Central Park or Tompkins Square Park and it reeks. I don't think it's out of place if you're at a bus stop to see somebody hitting a bowl or vaping. I think obviously vape pens, because it's still legal, vape pens and more discreet. There's a lot of like delivery services that are now delivering edibles. Which is obviously is an issue because you don't know about the safety, and dosages is obviously a big question in edibles. But people want it. The demand is as high as it's ever been.
Yeah, well, one of the last times I was in the city, a buddy of mine was ordering through his bicycle messenger guy, asked me if I wanted something, and I said, well, yeah, when he gets here I might have a look and see what the edibles look like. And there was a chai cake, there was a peppermint candy, and I bought a chai cake. But you're right, because at that point I'm like, so any idea how strong this is, how much I should take? And he's like, yeah, take about half. And then he ran out the door to his next client.
Yeah,
but,
totally.
but I mean, for example, there was this story in the Washington Post a couple weeks ago about how shatter concentrates, extracts, are now starting to show up on the streets of DC in prominent numbers.
Right.
Any idea if that concentrate culture, that oil head culture, is moving into New York more so than the last time you were there?
I think the truth is it's already there. And it was always there, and there's been extractors and growers in Brooklyn that have been providing oil for a decade already, if not more. I think what's different now is the demand and the notoriety. People have visited Colorado. They've been in California, where it's relatively easy, even without a medical card, to procure cannabis or to get a medical card really easily. There's, you know, so I think that as we are starting to see some cross-cultural connections and the geographical spread. So I think as you know, more people are coming back from Colorado with examples of oil, of dabs, of pellets, of pills, of, you know, canyon drops and other things like that, and that's sparking the interest. So it's increasing. It's going to be fits and starts, I think, in New York, but we'll see.
Cool.
Yeah.
Zach, lastly, I do want to talk about, you recently spoke with Advertising Age for a good feature on the modern branding of cannabis. And one element of that, as we've written about on the site, is the marketing of marijuana a la terms like energizing or calming or focus or amplify. You know, they're, instead of using specific strain names or indica sativa terminology. So what do you think about this generalizing of cannabis and its effects to market the plant?
I think it's a really logical step right now, and I think that part of what creates a distance between new audiences, new consumers, new cannabis advocates or users is that it can be very intimidating to walk into stores, even with great bud tenders and great assistants, when there's 12 or 15 strains. They all have sort of different side effects and different intended effects, and so I think by sort of streamlining things, you know, it's like asking for aspirin and not asking for the 10 chemicals that are in aspirin that make it work. I know that's not a perfect analogy, but you know, there's a few brands out there that have done it really well. There's one called Stratos that's on the marketplace, and that's like a relax one, a sleep one, and I think the other one is Energize. Good chemistry. Also, their retail store in Aurora, they rebranded their entire sort of line and ingratiated into their brand experience, their architectural experience, where it's sleep, stimulate, restore, revive.
Right, and when you walk in the store, that's really what you're looking at. It's like,
these panels,
I like the feeling of energy, and the bud tender kind of guides you to these strains. Okay, well, this is what we're looking at, and then lets you smell.
I think
some
it makes sense for now.
Joya is doing the same thing.
Yeah, Joya, absolutely. I think this makes sense for now when the industry needs to create terminologies and entry points. I think what you'll see happen is that eventually the true connoisseurship just like the enophiles in wine, they're going to know the varietals, they're going to know the vintage year, they're going to know the vigneron, they're going to know, and they're going to want to know, this is this is Ghost OG from this grower, from this strain,
right,
from this year.
Specifics on the genetics.
Exactly. And that'll come out, and there's already obviously, experts and connoisseurs in the space looking for that, but they're not the next 30 million people.
Right.
Agreed.
Right. I want to bring Kendall back into the conversation. We had some big news this week. Denver Mayor Michael Hancock, he told the Denver Post, one of my colleagues, Jeremy Meyer, that he's changed his position on pot clubs in the city. Now, 3 years ago, this is the same man who directed the Denver City Council to ban pot clubs outright. But now he's saying he's open to the idea. So, Kendall, what do you think about the mayor's about face on this issue?
I mean, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, that's just where we're headed. And, for little businesses like mine, and I mean, really for the industry as a whole, I mean, we've been waiting on the regulatory landscape and the political temperature to change, and knowing full well that it was going to, because it's just simple supply and demand. This is what the people want, and people are moving here in order to get treatment for their children. I mean, we're just seeing this enormous boom in Colorado for interested parties wanting to have access to this.
So it doesn't surprise you at all?
Not at all.
And now we've seen Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper come around to this idea that a regulated marijuana market can work. Here, seeing the mayor of Denver come around to the idea, it's interesting. Zach, what are your thoughts on Hancock's turnaround?
I wasn't here 3 years ago, so I really can't speak to it. I think Kendall's right, and that there's going to be a lot of evolution of thinking. I think that's what a politician will say, is my thinking has evolved. Right. It's really their go-to way to say, I was wrong then, and I'm right now. But I think at the same time, I'm sort of happy he took his time, because I'd rather the mayor and the people he represents and speaks on behalf of, and what his power will be, arrive at it on his own timeline, on his own agenda. He's got competing interests, I'm sure, screaming in his face from different aspects of the state and the city, at least. So again, I'm not surprised. I think it's an affirmation of the industry itself, that there aren't horror stories, there aren't major crimes, there aren't major upticks in DUI or drug busts. I think we've seen a suppression of the mobile lab dab explosions from a couple years ago.
Sure.
So as those things have tamped down, and the industry has, I think, done its part to be involved in increased regulation, to work with the MED and the city and the state and the various locales to say, hey, we're here to help you, give us rules that make sense. We're not here for an open market. We're not here to raise the level of danger to the public. And now that's taken root, I think it's going to be one of the biggest issues of the year if it's on the table. And I couldn't be more excited for the idea of developing new spaces for cannabis.
I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like. I mean, is it going to be the pot-only cannabis clubs of Toronto where you can't get alcohol? Or is it going to be more of a free-for-all, perhaps something you'd see in Barcelona or Lisbon? So what are these spaces going to look like? It's going to be very interesting to see. But you guys, it is time for the pot quiz. Zach asked for some answers
I tried
earlier,
to cheat. Unabashed.
This is what I'm most nervous for, actually.
One thing I will say to our listeners and our people watching the program, definitely come and find us on Twitter if you haven't already, or Periscope at Cannabist, because we are having some fun with Periscope, and we're going to give people a sneak peek of some pop quiz questions before we tape and answer your questions, all that fun. But for now, you know how this works, right? Kendall, we're going to start with you. If you get the answer wrong, he can steal it, and vice versa.
Okay.
2 questions apiece, super quick and easy. And Kendall, here we go.
Okay.
Name the Hollywood super producer who last week announced that he is developing a new sitcom set inside a Colorado marijuana shop. Hint, this isn't his first. He also created The Big Bang Theory, 2.5 Men, Dharma and Greg, and other TV hits.
I hated all of those shows, so I have no idea. have no idea. Do you know?
Oh, I hate all those shows
You
too. Oh, I really hate those shows. I've never, yeah. Okay, so no idea.
No idea.
Okay.
Chuck Lorre.
Chuck Lorre for the win. Do you
Dharma
like any of those
Greg.
shots?
Yeah, I thought, is he also involved in Modern Family?
I don't
That
think
one
so.
I loved.
I like Modern Family.
Okay, I mean, I love
He
Dharma
did-
and Greg back in the day.
He's doing something now called Mom. I don't know where it's at.
He's
or
great.
what
I
it
mean,
is.
Big Bang Theory is very unique and innovative. I love that sense of humor, that sort of geeky,
cool.
nerdy humor. He's been great for years. Yeah.
My dad loves that show.
Yeah, that's good.
Wow. All right. Point Zac. And Zac, this next question is for you. What former Facebook executive, not named Zuckerberg, recently donated $500,000 of his own money to a California initiative that would legalize recreational marijuana?
Sean Parker.
Sean Parker. He's on fire. Kendall, what are you going to do?
I mean,
I'm going to take a dive because Kendall's going to win one way or another. Even if I win the points, she's going to be winning.
I'm not the player that you pick for Trivial Pursuit team.
No.
Charades? Should we do charades instead?
Charades?
Charades.
Oh, yeah. Maybe next time you guys are on the show, we'll do cannabis charades. That'll be hilarious.
Funny.
Okay, Kendall, next up. This is a tough one.
Okay.
Travis Maurer, who helped legalize marijuana in what state, is currently being sued in 2 separate high-profile lawsuits. So what state did Travis Maurer help legalize marijuana in?
I don't know that one either.
You can take a guess because this is not medical. This is recreational.
Washington.
So Washington, that's a good guess. Not right though. Poor Kendall. Oh man, Zac, I have a feeling where you're going with this. Let's hear it.
I
You have
mean,
an idea?
I'm going to say, I want to say Alaska, but I'm not saying Alaska because I'm going to say Oregon.
Oregon for the win.
Wow.
3 points. Oh man, where is this going next? Is it going to be a shutout? Kendall, are you going to steal a point?
It's probably going to be a shutout.
It's
All
not
right, let's see.
All right, Zac.
Let's do this.
Mexican marijuana smugglers last week tried hiding more than a ton of weed inside these fake vegetables, but the shipment was ultimately seized by border agents. So, what fake vegetables were used to smuggle weed?
I know this, but I'm going to blank and going to say...
You can't throw a
Can I say
question?
aubergine?
Well, you can say eggplant if you want.
I'm going to say aubergine.
Are you really throwing this last question?
I don't know it. I actually don't know it. I don't
okay.
know
If
it.
you don't know
if
it.
I did, I'd be
Yeah, you
whispering,
can
it's cucumbers.
You can say
I don't know.
aubergine.
Aubergine.
And it's incorrect.
Damn it!
Kendall?
I just like the word
Actually, I was
aubergine.
going to say the same thing. I wasn't going to say aubergine, but I was going to say basically the same thing in eggplant.
Okay, so now you know it's not eggplant. You want to throw another vegetable in the mix?
I do. Okay, let's go with my favorite vegetable to actually smoke out of. Carrot.
Wow, she is not going to get shut out.
Yeah!
She refuses to get the 0. Nice work. Producer Vince right now is going to throw up the photo. It's amazing. These carrots, these fake carrots were stuffed with weed.
Are they here?
That's orange tape. No, they're not here, but it's, you know.
I love carrots.
Yeah, you'd love these carrots. But, oh my God, I might do a post later this week purely on the comments on my tweet, which I think has been retweeted like 300 times, because you can make the argument that these vaguely look like carrots, but you could also make the argument that they look like another phallic-shaped object, and plenty of people have had fun with that on Twitter, so thank you for that.
The internet.
I want to say thank you to our guests, Kendall, Norris, and Zac Cohen, and thanks to you all for watching and listening. Please tell your friends about the Cannabist Show. I'm Ricardo Baca, joined by producers Vince, Dane, Eric. Have a great day, everyone, and we will see you next week.
And I shut my mouth to show the sound of truth. I'm allowed to lose, the truth to win. I'm all in, I'm calling any posse you'll be raising at the end. I say it again, ain't afraid to get in. I be going for the jackpot with aces in my hand, I'm raw.